Hello, today I'd like to talk about purpose.
Welcome back to Sales Operations for Small Businesses.
Purpose is something that I do believe is important. There are many people out there that, say that it's not as important as just having an end goal. But for me, life is something where it can throw all kinds of things at you. And if you do not have an underlying reason for why you're doing something that's more than a superficial reason, it's going to be really, really hard to try to track down that extra energy to move forward. So I'd like to explain to you the purpose of the sales ops effect, what it's for, why I started it. The Sales Ops Effect is a training company. And I'm training people on how to run sales operations within small to medium businesses. So businesses where the total staff number is maybe up to 200, 250. That doesn't ignore the really, really small businesses where there's only 5 or 10 of you. But, you'd have to have a business of a certain size making a certain amount of money in order to need a sales ops person specifically doing that role. And there's lots of things in between. So if you end up hiring somebody out to do the job that doesn't officially work for you, but they do parts of the job, because people do that with HR, for example, that's one of the areas that sales ops could move into because it's still fairly new. Yes, it's been around for decades, but in the same way that project management really wasn't recognized or respected as an actual skill, in the same way that we're having to constantly tell managers, yes, you do need managerial skills. You don't just get promoted to be a manager and then know how to be a manager overnight. Sales ops is something where people were doing the aspects of that role and never really had a title. They were doing it as projects off the side of their desks because they happened to be able to put those things together. And it's only really now that we're pulling all of the information that we have together so that we have a general idea about what this role should be, and most importantly, how it can help businesses. Because my background is in project management, and one of the main reasons why I love sales operations is because the influence that it can have on a business. And so the purpose that I'm driving with here is that if you can embed integrity, embed being able to work together in harmony, different departments working together in harmony, not having one department that's king and the rest of the departments just being considered to be supportive departments. If you can get that really fluid feeling inside of a company from early, from when it's young, from when it's a small business, because yes, some businesses want to stay small, but a lot of people start their businesses so that they can grow and, ideally so that they can grow to take care of themselves, and then the owner can eventually sit back into just doing the thing that they wanted to do. There's lots of different reasons why you might want to grow your business. But we all know how hard it is for people out there at the moment. At the time of recording, it's 2023 in July. There's lots of stuff going on, right? Economically. And people aren't treating people well. We've got the actors' strike and the writers' strike going on right now because it's being considered unreasonable for people wanting to earn enough to live. And so the purpose of building in integrity and having that kind of influence and desire to treat people as humans, really basic requirements, building that into small businesses, teaching other people how to build it into small businesses means that they will end up growing those businesses, helping to grow those businesses to become the larger businesses. The reason why we have billionaire owners now and really, really large businesses now that treat people the way they do is because they've been able to get away with it for so long. But all businesses don't last. Many last for hundreds of years because it's that some of them get too big to be taken down easily. But there's always a turnover of businesses. So the next businesses, the large businesses that are coming up, do you want those to be businesses that are treating people as poorly as some of the businesses that you can see out there at the moment? Or do you want to be a part of the people that are growing the kind of businesses that treat people humanely? We've seen this from the sustainability aspect of taking care of our environment and, the one planet that we have. But even though We've had employee engagement, so all those surveys that comes out, and the rise of HR, and even the rise of importance of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Even though we have all of those things, as someone who ran DEI once, and I did not volunteer for it, trust me, it's a lot of hard work. So big up to everybody who can do it. The way you sell these things to large organizations is about the money. It's about the money you'll save from lawsuits, or the money that you'll bring in by marketing the fact that you're this newfangled business. That's how it's sold to these leaders. It's not sold to these leaders based off of the fact that, the humane thing to do is to make sure you're not overworking people. The, humane thing to do and the right thing to do is make sure the appropriate people are being promoted at the appropriate times to the appropriate places, not just the person who you went golfing with. That's not how it's sold. It just isn't. It's sold based on money and money only, because that's the only thing that those old world people care about. And the way you build, like I say, the way you build integrity into sales operations is by the processes. I'm training somebody new. I'll talk about this in another episode, but the focus of the training and mentorship that I'm giving to this person hasn't been on the CRM. Yes, we're getting a lot of information from it, but basically what the focus is actually on is all of the internal projects that are building up the structure, because that's the great thing about being in sales ops, is that you get to create the structure or adapt it from the very baseline structure that was there before. Things like creating deal reviews. So the process a deal has to go through in order for us to check its strategic fit, to make sure it's being priced properly. Ideally, a manager would be able to just do that. But in certain size businesses, a manager doesn't know all the details. And in some businesses, the delivery team, it's structured so finely that you need to make sure that they have resources to deliver at the times that is being promised to the client. So you need things like deal reviews. So where do you see anywhere where there's a focus on deal reviews? That's a project. Deal win reviews, deal loss reviews, those are projects. Even just making sure people understand how the invoice process works, which is, leading a little bit more into revenue operations instead of sales operations. But in a small business, as we know, we wear many, many hats. There are so many projects that need to be dealt with. And the really weird thing about it is that some people have been in so many bad companies, in so many inhumane companies, that they think that it's normal to have that amount of dysfunction. They think it's normal to have that amount of friction between sales and the delivery teams, or sales and marketing, because that's just what they've always seen. I had a friend who we were talking the other day, and I was expressing some frustration with one of the companies that I'm working with at the moment, with a couple of the sales managers that just do not recognize that a part of their job is about building their team, making their team sturdy. It's not just about the current client that's in front of you. It's also making sure that those internal interactions are going accordingly. And whilst they cannot chase everything down, the idea that they just don't find it important is insane, because the moment then it's something that blocks them, then it's, how come this situation hasn't been dealt with, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, when we asked you to be a part of the review process, you weren't around. So I was having that conversation, and he was saying, but salespeople are like that. I'm like, no. Many salespeople are like that, but not all of them. In the same way that many managers have no idea how to manage, but it's not all of them. It's not all of them, but we've just gotten so used to people just being mistreated, and it coming from specific departments as well in different ways, that we just think that it's normal, and it's not. Because I'm telling you now, in my experience, you go into a company, there will at least be one other person who in their heart of hearts knows all of this stuff that's happening is wrong, and they do want it fixed, but they are one person and they can't fix it all themselves. But particularly if that person is a manager, if that person is the head of sales, my sales ops friends, you are very, very lucky, because the moment that they know that they can see in you a like mind, the idea that you can get to, it may not be friction free, but friction lowered state of being where things do just run smoothly. And it's only when there's an actual issue that other issues happen, rather than issues just being normal. There's always somebody there, at least one person that will think like you, and you need to find them and you need to make friends with them very, very quickly. Because where there's one, there's two, and where there's two, there's three. But you all need to kind of put up your hand so that you know that the other person is there and that you have an ally in that person. And then also, I've spoken to you about this before. You could just be in the wrong place. If you're in the kind of place where it's accepted that sales basically just go around causing trouble for everybody else in the business, then that might not be the place where you should be at. Just leave. Certain companies need to die out, quite frankly. If you're being bad to people, then certain companies need to die out. But that's the whole reason why I created Sales Ops Effect, because the people that I work with have integrity. They're people who want to really learn and study their craft, and they need to be able to withstand the weather that's coming at them, and there are people who get taken advantage of because they know all of these skills and they're doing all of these things. And I don't want that to be people in sales ops. I don't want that to be anyone, but I can't help everyone. I can help people in sales ops because I've been there. I have been exploited. I have been taken advantage of a few times and at different levels. And each time I learned something different. So it is about how you go into it. It's not just all of these really cool, fancy tools that you can buy and just learn how to function. That's not what sales ops is. That's what the internet would like to tell you. It's not. It's not when you do it properly. And so that is my purpose. That's what the Sales Ops Effect is about. I'm really appreciative to anybody who's watching and listening to this. I do read all of your comments and, I reply because you can see them. So I'm thankful. Do let me know how it's working out for you, what organizations that you've been in where you've had salespeople on your side and the ones where you haven't, because this is an open conversation and I want to keep going. So that is my purpose. I'm really looking forward to other people working with other people with similar purposes. And I'm really thankful that you're here. So thank you. And I'll speak to you soon.